I, 29F, am moving in with my BF of 3 years, 33M, and my fundamentalist mom, 65F, is furious. I am not the oop. Oop is you, Briar 26. I, 29F, am moving in with my BF of 3 years, 33 meters, and my fundamentalist mom, 65F, is furious. Originally posted to our relationship advice. Trigger warning. Emotional manipulation and emotional abuse. Less than. Original post January 17, 2023. My mom and I have always had a very close relationship. She tells me everything. I am her only daughter. Her confidant since I was a small child. Telling me everything from financial troubles to have issues with my dad, brothers, etc. Her pride has always been that I have always been very mature for my age. Being able to cook, clean, take care of my brother with ASD, being homeschooled, being active in my church, etc. So much so that people have always mistaken me for being 10 plus years older than I was since I was 13, 14 or so. Please keep in mind I grew up in the fundamentalist world. Think Duggars, IBLP, Bill Gothard, Quiverful, etc. Tay vibe is ultra-conservative. Long skirts and hair. No TV and only select music. Homeschooling. Tons of kids and such. I have 6 brothers. For example, all homeschooled K-12. I have always been extremely good at towing the line between being compliant and being a silent rebel. Always did and said the right thing so as to not be in trouble and have privileges restricted, but always questioning everything and pushing boundaries as far as I could. I went to college, got my AAS, work in healthcare. I moved out by myself. Huge upset, and am financially independent. Lived on my own for years, and am fully self-sufficient. I have slowly distanced myself from my fundamentalist background. I have lost almost all the friends I had growing up, as we were friends by necessity, not really choice in most cases. We have rather just grown apart, or it is because I left and they stayed. Even leaving my church, I just slowly phased out, giving up responsibilities in college due to being busy and slowly showing up less and less. Again, I am an excellent, quiet rebel. I met my BF right before COVID hit. We get along great. He is calm where I am anxious. Absolutely hilarious and makes me feel like I am home whenever I'm with him. I can honestly say he is the love of my life. My mom had never liked him. Feels like he doesn't have his priorities straight. He is successful in his career and also fully self-sufficient. Because he likes sports too much. Doesn't like his friends, who she has never met. She just picks apart any story I tell her to find an issue with them. They have been super kind and welcoming to me. She just doesn't like him, but is never really able to give me a solid reason. My dad and my brothers-in-laws love him. I told them we were moving in together in a few months. My dad told me he would prefer if we got married first, but that it was ultimately my choice. My mom lost it, storming out of the house and then storming back in to tell me to get out. So I left and have heard nothing for days. She texted me this AM saying we need to meet so we can talk before I make the biggest mistake of my life. Honestly, I'm so emotionally exhausted. I'm tired, sad and numb. I fluctuate between trying to not cry and panic to just staring off and shutting down and trying to think of nothing at all. I know I'm too old for this. I know I should be far past these growing pains and that I should just move on and cut her off. But I can't. Who is she going to have if I am gone? Her life is so hard with my brother having medical issues, and I have always been there to help. Amongst other things, I'm her support and feel so selfish. I do not want to talk to her but know I have to. What the hell am I supposed to say? What would you say? Relevant comments. Lori Drum. I'm not going to touch on the religious or moral aspects of this because I'm sure others will do so. I want to emphasize the fact that your mother relying on you as her sole confidant from such a young age is absolutely 100% inappropriate. Your mother forced you into a position that no child should ever have to be in. The result is this overwhelming guilt as you try to establish normal boundaries. You may not have had a choice when you were young in being her support system, but you have a choice now. Please make the choice to reset this dysfunctional relationship with your mother and choose to be healthy instead. Seeker 131313. Who is she going to have if you're gone? Your mother has a husband and 6 other children. She is also a grown woman who is responsible for managing her own emotions. I get that that is obviously not her strong suit, since she parentified you and inappropriately used you as an emotional spouse since you were a child. But that is not your problem. Now that you are an adult, you can, and should, refuse to discuss this topic with her. Mom, I have made my decision and won't be discussing this with you. She gets upset? Leave or hang up the phone. Mom, we can visit another time when you've had a chance to calm down. Be proud of yourself and don't let her drag you down. Update 6 months later, July 18, 2023. See link if you want the story again. But for my update, my mom tried everything. Tears, threats, gaslighting, contacting people from my past to stop me. I cut contact. Didn't tell her where our new place was. She was texting my BF for weeks. He blocked her and never responded. Only recently have we started gently talking again. My BF and I have been living together for more than 4 months. We adopted 2 dogs from a local rescue. We meal prep together, work out together, watch movies, sports, and are obsessed with our neighborhood farmers market. With the support of my friends, boyfriend, and brothers, I am going back to school this fall for a higher degree. I also started taking medication for my mental health and am seeing a therapist. I am so damn happy and excited for what the future holds. Thank you to everyone for their support. I read every comment and cried through them all. Seriously, thank you. You have no idea what everything meant to me. Anyone wanting further context, you could watch Shiny Happy People. That unfortunately is my background. This is a repost sub IAM, not the OOP. I am so proud of OOP. Changing deeply ingrained habits is so hard, especially when someone you love is guilt-tripping you. But she did it. I hope she and her boyfriend are very happy and she enjoys her graduate program. I'll second OOP's rec of Shiny Happy People. Also familiar with being mom's primary support person. Mine refused to seek help from any sort of professional, and didn't want to burden her friends. But for some reason her early teen daughter was the perfect person to advise her on relationship and spiritual matters. Eventually I told her she should at least speak to one of the lady elders at our church. She was horrified. Asked me if I'd be willing to ask one of them to help me change my tampon. I told her I would if I were severely disabled and needed the help. She insisted her situation wasn't that severe, but for the next month or so, any time she'd want to ask me about something, I'd tell her I'd already given her the best advice I could, and if she wasn't going to take it, I couldn't help her. Then she switched to emotionally distancing for her own protection, aka snubbing me the moment I called her out on her behavior. So very glad OOP's gotten away from that. And at least her dad accepts her as an adult capable of making her own decisions. OOP is objectively wholesome. A normal person would be so proud of a daughter like her. I have also never met a happy or well-adjusted fundamentalist that is still in the church. I was in my early 30s when I started dating my now husband. Up until then I'd never even had a boyfriend. I'd met men I liked but never been brave enough to take it further, and even rejected a couple because they were a little too forward for me. You see, I'd been brought up in a Baptist household in the UK, so not quite as fundamental as OOP's church, but still fairly strict, especially with girls. My parents had guilted me so much about sex outside of marriage that although, like OOP, I was a quiet rebel, the shame ran deep. I didn't even move out of my parents' place until my late 20s. Half because I couldn't afford it, and half because I was terrified of living elsewhere away from their protection. Anyway, there I was in my early 30s, living independently and dating a man I'd been friends with for a few years. Because we knew each other so well, we'd fallen pretty deeply for each other before either one of us summoned the courage to admit it. So when we actually started officially dating, everything kind of hit fast forward. We went from friends to boyfriend, girlfriend, to lovers within a matter of months. It just felt so right, and I felt most of the shame and guilt melt away. Except when it came to my parents. Particularly my mother. I hid my relationship from her for weeks. And even when I was staying overnight at my boyfriend's, I tried to cover it up. My mother was extremely suspicious, and I felt like a disobedient teenager who had committed some terrible sin. It actually pisses me off now when I look back at how my mother treated me. I was in a secure and loving relationship, and I couldn't share that with my own mother. I didn't even tell her I was moving in with my so until shortly before I did. She wasn't at all happy, but at least had the sense not to react like OOP's mother. So I'll give her that. But I'll be honest and say that it opened my eyes to my mother's controlling tendencies. She pulled a couple of minor stunts during our wedding planning that she did nothing to help with. That to this day I regret caving in on. But I can tell you she has absolutely no say in my life these days. In fact, she's often one of the last I tell any major news to. Because I cannot trust whether she'll try and rain on my parade. I hope OOP keeps living an amazing life with the man she loves. And never lets her mother attempt to manipulate and control her ever again. Life's too short for that nonsense. Man, it must be hard being Jesus. Spend all your life telling people to judge not and love one another. And it seems the people that claim to follow you the most are the ones that ignore your most important messages. Burdening your child with your issues because you have no adult social circle, and putting adult responsibilities on their shoulders while praising them for being mature is hands clapping, a hands clapping form, hands clapping of hands clapping child, hands clapping abuse. The commenters nailed the issue. She was an in-house maid for her own family, and was made to believe her missed childhood was a mark of pride. This is an excellent update. Heart. Would have liked to hear how it felt getting her first haircut she chose, buying and wearing the first clothes she wanted. But maybe she either likes the long skirts and hair, no shame, isn't there yet, or didn't feel it was significant enough to write about. I am an excellent quiet rebel, I love this. Shiny happy people was so bad, and I can totally get what OOP went through. At least she has her dad's support. This makes me so happy. I'm so proud of her, and I hope she continues to thrive. So, I wonder if the mom is jealous of her daughter's freedom and independence but is masking it as religious disapproval? The mom never questioned the cult, was probably somewhat forced into marriage, had no BC, so forced into half a dozen children. And maybe she didn't want any of it but felt trapped by fear or obligation or her parents. So now, instead of confronting her feelings and supporting her daughters, she has to force her girls into her own misery so she can feel normal, and moral, and justified in her misery. She can't have young women making their own choices reminding her that she had none. She can't have young women being happy. 'Cause then she has to look at herself and her life and her religion and evaluate these things and determine if they were harmful to her and her children and digest the guilt and regret that comes along with that. But Mom doesn't want to. Mom wants her daughter's choices to validate herself as a confirmation that all her struggles were worth it. And that lack of validation feels like a personal attack to these kinds of moms. Like a crab in a barrel. She has to pull them back down when they start climbing to a freedom she will never know. OOP's mom relied too much on her daughter for everything. Therapist, sounding board, maid. I doubt her brothers help with the cooking and cleaning. And babysitter, third parent. Mom was probably hoping that her daughter would either settle with a fellow fundie or scare away all the boyfriends so that she would always be around to take care of the brother with the ASD. Good for Oop to get away from that. Who is she going to have if you're gone? Your mother has a husband and 6 other children. This poster was actually wrong. In the sort of fundamentalist environment that Oop is from, Oop was the only person in the family with anything like an equal social standing to her mother. The only person her mother isn't expected to take orders from. The only person her mother isn't automatically expected to put ahead of herself. I'm not at all surprised she completely wigged out. Oop was praised for being mature for her age, completely ignoring the burden of care put on her at a young age. That grows kids up fast being her mother's only emotional support as well as helping provide care for the autistic brother is what forced her to mature early. Being the only other female in the family didn't help. Even as a young girl she would have been expected to help raise younger siblings, as is the way with these religious types. My therapist recently pointed out I think about my mother's well-being like a partner rather than a daughter. That emotional enmeshment is real. It is so hard to walk away from that kind of emotional manipulation. My own mother did it to me. I was her confidant and she told me things that no child should ever know about their mother. I was parentified to the point that she actually acknowledged that I was more mother to my siblings than she was. Oop, if you see this, I am so proud of you for being able to cut those ties and build a life for yourself. Best of luck and keep those boundaries firm. I glad Op broke free. Sounds like she's on a good path. I'm so glad her resiliency was able to hold her up until she made that break. Her partner sounds amazing and the new network of family she is building towards a happier life.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.